Welcome to Conversations Different, a podcast from the Santa Fe New Mexican, focusing on interesting people and issues of northern New Mexico. This is Inez Russell Gomez, and this week we are talking to Meghan Montelibano Gorman, who will be talking about ways to have family fun as the summer fades and the tempers heat up. She's the mother of two and runs Santa Fe Adventures for Littles. Welcome, Meghan.
Thanks for having me.
And this is not a video podcast because some of us have hair issues. That would be me. But Meghan is here with her youngest, Max, and he is our first under 10 podcast guest. Welcome, Max.
If he could speak, he would be very, very excited. And he, I think, is the one with the hair issues, to be honest.
Oh, it's awesome. His hair is just, if you could see it, it's sticking up everywhere. And it looks like he has been in an electrical wave. But I want to talk, first of all, about your company, your organization, your effort, Adventures for Littles, because it's about helping people find fun things to do, but it's bigger than that, I think. From what I see online, it's helping people find connections.
Yeah, thank you for saying that. So, yes, is my hope, right? That Santa Fam is creating that space for others. It started off, as a place for me. Like, I had just moved to Santa Fe. I was freshly postpartum, and I was really struggling to find community. And I knew in order for me to feel better, in order for my children to have a childhood and a mom that would do a better job, I needed to find ways to connect. And it was really simple. I just frankly didn't feel safe in the city, right? Like, I was just so anxious of, where do I take my kid? Where can I bring a stroller? Yeah, Max is chiming in here too. And so I just brought my phone out and started recording things that we found, activities, and then included some recommendations of like, hey, you can't bring a stroller here, but you can bring a baby carrier, or parking is available at this location. So it's been really fun and fulfilling to do this project and to build this space.
So let's talk about what you're trying to do with your organization.
Yeah, I think it's, like I said, a simple idea. It's bringing caregivers, mothers, fathers, tias, tios, grandmas, grandpas. A family looks so different, and I try to be really inclusive of that so people feel welcomed. I feel like mom groups, in my experience, had been really scary. There was just like politics that I just wasn't aware of, and like judgment. And Santa Fam really just aims to bring people together to make your life easier, because you already, as a parent and a caregiver, have so much going on your plate. So I have this calendar, and I update it hourly almost anytime I see something new. If a time changes or a location changes, and it's, easy, you pull it up on your phone, you pull it up on Google. Every single day there is something to do with your child in this city. And I focus really on only sharing things that are free or relatively low cost.
Okay, so tell me the name of where people can go to find this.
Yeah, so I'm on Instagram primarily, so it's just @_Santa Fam, FAM _. And if you're not on social media, which I know a lot of people aren't, you can go to my website, santafam.com.
Okay, and that's fam for family, familia.
Yeah.
That whole, basically the idea that we're together if we want to be.
It's a collective, right? I think this city is, especially if you talk about children versus, there's always a versus conversation, right? And I really want to work against that. Of course, I can get into that deficit mindset of, oh, we don't have this, we don't have that, we don't have a splash pad. I know.
I was just going to say, no splash pad.
That's like the hot topic right now in caregiving world. But there's also tremendous abundance here. And at the end of the day, all we have is one another, right? We're one familia. And that's what I really hope that this space can create for one another.
Yeah, I remember talking to my father-in-law, who used to say, if you're bored in Taos, you don't go outside, because all you have to do is go take a walk in the mountains. He said, people come here from all over the world to go hiking. Why is this not a thing? And why are you bored? And he always thought it was our problem if we were bored.
It's so true. And I think boredom is so important, like for me, for my children. Like, I feel like my generation of parenting is really preoccupied with like over programming the day. And like sometimes I feel like people feel pressure because of this calendar, because they know that things are going on. They have FOMO, fear of missing out. But man, we live in Santa Fe. Like, we're so lucky. We can just go outside and just enjoy the sun, the mountains, the arroyo, whatever it may be. So as much as I'm a proponent of like get out there and do things with your kids, also stay home. Like,
yeah, no, that's a great point. I remember my son's 27 now, so I remember when he was about 3 or 4, we used to go. That there was a schedule. If you were a mom in Santa Fe, there was Borders had a children's story time.
the best.
Toddler story time at the library, and we would see the same people. And then Friday there was something at the Children's Museum that was for under 5s. And I remember sitting there with him. We were outside because it was spring, and he and this girl were just taking sticks and building a little sandcastle by a little tiny river. And it was almost like being in the real country without having to drive. And it was really not directed, not that educational in terms of he wasn't, doing Legos or putting his face in that weird thing that makes your face come out funny. But it was just playing with dirt, water, and a stick. And they had the best time. And I thought, this is the kind of thing that develops a kid and we need more of.
Absolutely. For sure.
Yeah. And no adults.
No, just free play. I think I love watching my older son. He's about to turn 3 in October. The older he gets, the more he's not interested in like the group activities at the library or at the Children's Museum. He'll do kind of what you said. He'll just go outside, find a worm, be entertained for hours. And it's so fun to just let him be.
Yes, I think that's important. And I think, as much as it's good to be in sports or, start gymnastics or whatever your kind of fun thing is going to be when you're a kid, it's also good, to have a bunch of kids on a block and ride their bikes up and down the street.
I wish I had a street. I have no street in my neighborhood. But that's the dream, right?
Yeah, that is. Yeah, we were really lucky when we got our house. There were just a horde of boys, and everyone talks about, this is like 2000s childhood, and everyone talks about, well, in the 60s we did this. And they had a 60s childhood because they would come, eat, and leave and just ride their bikes, and we'd never see them, none of the parents. It was awesome.
Yeah, I long for that kind of community, and I think like Santa Fam is trying to augment that in a lot of ways in like a digital capacity, because that's just, those are the tools I have right now. So I'm grateful that this space has kind of pulled that together in a way, in a time where that's not really possible anymore. So it's been really meaningful. Like I said, I've made really good friends through this space as well. So I'm just happy to share, happy to be here.
Good, good. And we'll be back in a moment with more about what families can do for fun. Welcome back to Conversations Different. I'm your host, Inez Russell Gomez, and today we have some burning questions for a very special guest, the one and only Old Man Gloom. Mr. Gloom, thank you for joining us today. So, Mr. Gloom, the burning of Zozobra this year is a big milestone. What are your thoughts and feelings as we approach the 100th burning? As the 100th burning, it must be a hot ticket. How can people find out more about the event and how to attend? Sounds great, but if you didn't understand that, go to burnszozobra.com and learn more. Mr. Gloom, any parting thoughts before you go up in flames? Ah, that's lovely. And for our listeners, for the best in-depth coverage of the burning of Zozobra and everything else that matters in Santa Fe, visit santafenewmexican.com and subscribe for unlimited access. Thanks again, Mr. Gloom. We look forward to seeing you burn August 30th. We are back with Meghan and baby Max, who is resting now, to talk about what fun for families there is in Santa Fe and what there can be, and talk about your page and what you have on there that people can go look at to see maybe what they might want to do.
Yeah, there's a little bit of structure to my madness, if you will. So every Sunday, I will go on Instagram and share to my story kind of a highlight reel of what's going on that week. So I try to do something every day, Monday through Sunday. Again, something that's free or affordable and that lives on the page for that week, right? But people can go at any time, 4 a.m. when you're nursing your baby or you're waiting for your kid at the pickup line. They can go on the calendar and check out what's going on that day. I love when people stop me at the park or, we're picking up ice cream or something and they're like, oh, I use your calendar every day. And I'm like, me too, because I don't know what's going on half the time. And just to kind of wake up and say, okay, today's Tuesday, what's going on? There's some regularly scheduled program things here in the city for 0 to 5 is the age I focus on. But sometimes there's new things that pop up. So I try to make sure it's all updated. Santa Fe, like I said, there's so much going on and there's just too many places for information, right? So I want it to be one stop, consolidated, easy for parents and caregivers to just open it and say, okay, I know this is happening today. We're going to take the kids. Because nothing is more disappointing than loading your children up in the car, driving, buckling them in, buckling them out, and then it's not happening, right? So I will make sure I message organizers, whoever is hosting an event, and I host my own events too, that it's happening for sure.
So people know when they get information that it's going to be what you said it was going to be.
I hope so.
Yeah. Oh, that's good. That's good. I remember because I was working, and then when we moved back to Santa Fe, I stayed home with my son until he got to 3rd grade, from 2 to 3rd grade, something like that. And I remember that it was really important to have some sort of a structure for the week, because otherwise I would send him to the yard to play with rocks while I read, which is not a healthy way to raise your child. So I think having a calendar on Sunday, you can look and say, here's a few things that we might want to do. Exactly.
And it's nice because, again, for those repeat scheduled events, you start making friends. You start seeing the same people there. You start watching other, kiddos grow. And I'm still in shock that, my oldest child, who used to be the baby, is now one of the oldest kids at these events, right? Yeah. So it's neat and it's fun. And again, it's so hard to get out of the house. I think postpartum especially, just logistics alone, not even thinking about the mental health angle of it, it's hard to just mobilize. So
right. And putting 2 kids in car seats.
Yeah, even one.
No, but you've got 2 now. I was just thinking, and if your partner's working and you're the one that's raising the kids at home, it's a lot to do by yourself.
It is. When I first had Max, I actually asked on Instagram, to my followers, how do you do this? How do you load the children up? In what order? Is there a secret? And, things like that are also really helpful. And of course, I shared it out with everyone else too, of just there's so much wisdom in these circles. And it's, I think, discredited a lot of times, being particular, mostly femme or female driven, and it's home labor, but it's so important. And it's just, like I said, it's been a really great space to learn from one another, to find fun and safe things to do with our kiddos.
Right. I think it's called the Caregiver's Walk or something like that. Talk about what that is. I've seen that.
It's called Coffee and Crying, and it's kind of a joke, but also not a joke, of just how hard it can be to raise children. And I don't think we're supposed to be doing this in isolation, right?
The nuclear family was not standard for many centuries.
Exactly. I just think we're not wired. Our brain is not meant to do it that way. So my husband jokes, because I had this idea in the hospital, after I delivered my son this past March, 3 months ago. And I was like, you know what, this time around, I really need to meet other people who are going through the same thing. I need to walk and move my body. So I'm just going to put an invite out there and say, hey, we're going to be here this time. Bring your baby. Don't bring your baby. You can cry. You can happy cry. You can sad cry. But just walking, literally, not figuratively too, but, walking with other folks who are going through the same journey. And I kid you not, there was 75 people the first walk I hosted.
Wow.
We rolled up on Alto Park, and I was crying because I was just, floored that this was such a clearly needed space. I thought it was just for me, right? Like I say that all the time about Santa Fe. I'm like, I created this for myself because I'm already trying to do this for my children. So I might as well share that with the community. But it was really beautiful to see that, and also kind of sad just because
people
so
need
needed.
support.
Yeah.
And there's so many people who moved here, who don't have family support at all.
100%. I feel really lucky that, we have grandmas and tias and ninas who can help us. But I think about people who like just moved here or just moved back, right? Like they grew up here and now they're living in Santa Fe as an adult. Like there's so much more going on, and it can be really hard to make friends as an adult, and even more so as a parent. So it's been great, and the coffee has been donated, which is wonderful. Shout out to Baked and Brew and Cafecito for just recognizing that we need our caffeine.
That's what keeps you going.
It's true.
It does. I will say that once your kids get to school, you make friends because of the PTA. I mean, there's something really isolating about the under 5 that changes in the school age. But you could be, like I was 15 years older than half the parents at my son's school. And, it's really fun hanging out in the park with your kid and having people think you're the grandma of the other kid. It's like, okay, this is, and we had so much in common, so it doesn't always necessarily work even if you're at school. So this gives you a chance to form friendships, based on interests and stuff and not necessarily location.
Yeah. And I think I'm impatient, in a lot of ways, but I was impatient for that community because I think a lot of, moms I respected, you included, had been like, it'll get better, like you'll meet people. But I was just like, why wait? Like I see all of these kids every time I'm like out in public, like if we're at like PC's for dinner or like, anywhere, I'm like, look at that kid. They live here. They need support. Their parents need support. How do we mobilize one another and support one another? So
that's a perfect place to take a quick break, and we'll be back in a moment with more Conversations Different.
My name is Maria Jose Rodriguez Cadiz, and I am the Executive Director with Solace Sexual Assault Services. Our mission is to prevent sexual violence and empower survivors of sexual violence through restoring dignity, strength, and resiliency. For almost 51 years, Solace has reduced the impact of sexual violence. We do it by focusing on human rights, social justice, hope, and dignity. We believe survivors are experts in their own experiences and acknowledge that empowering them is crucial to their healing. Our advocacy, forensic interviewing, and therapy services are centered to their needs. Our sexual violence prevention programs in schools and community is just as important. Please check our website at findsolace.org. And if in need, you can call our 24/7 hotline, which is 800-721-7273. Your support is crucial to the lives of survivors. Thank you. Gracias.
We are back with Conversations Different, talking about support for new moms, for dads, for families, and also let's focus now. We're at the tail end of the summer. How do you segue from summer fun, late bedtimes, all of the things that we do in the summer to the fall and getting back to school? What is some advice you have?
Oh, you're asking the wrong mama. I think with my first one, I was very wake windows and schedules and bedtimes. But now that I have two, it's too chaotic. But I have found with me kind of letting go of those schedules, just following my children, which sounds like a little more hippy dippy than even I'm comfortable with sometimes, but just truly following what my children want to do. It's so much more peaceful. There's a lot less, I have a 3-year-old, so there is going to be some type of conflict, of course. He's always going to want to do the opposite, right? But I think as we like transition into the fall, I think this is kind of the time kids really need that like structure again and routine. So it kind of just follows that natural rhythm, right? Like with my kiddo right now, he's only in school 2 days a week, but during summertime, like I haven't really noticed a shift for him, right? He does go to bed late because I'm too tired to
put him to bed.
I'm like, you're going to fall asleep on the floor? Cool. That's okay. We'll move you to your bed after. But I think like it sounds silly, but like Mother Nature really does have an effect. Like, the sun isn't out as late and fall will be here. And like, I think kiddos are really in tune with that more so than we are. So kind of just trust their lead.
Oh, that's a really interesting point because one of the things that anyone who has a baby knows is that whatever you do will be judged and it's wrong.
Yeah.
And trusting your child, though, is always such good advice.
Yeah. And I think, like, again, with Santa Fam, like, it is a space of non-judgment. If you have, a baby who needs more routine, if you have a baby who is more high sleep needs, that's great. Like, more power to you. You're not going out of the house past 5 o'clock. I get it. And with my kiddos, like, they'll roll around in the dirt till, they pass out in the dirt, basically. But I just think, like, I wish the motherhood I want for myself and to raise other children with is just like truly to each their own, right? No judgment, only love, only support, advice when you want it, not off the bat advice, right? And I think that's starting to like percolate a little here.
That's nice. It's interesting. One of the funny things about Santa Fe is there's such different kind of parent groups. And that's one thing that hasn't changed since my son was small. We had, like 60-year-olds with adopted 4-year-olds in our group. And we had, 22-year-olds with a 4-year-old. And it was a real interesting range, and how they parented was different. And one of the things is that you can learn from each other if you just kind of sit back and watch.
I think that's like, it's bringing it back to that fam idea, right? Familia, right? Because there's so much division and there's so much like wanting to be right. I was just talking to my son's preschool teacher about this morning, and like there's no right in this time of child rearing. It's just you kind of hope you get it right and you raise humans that are kind and thoughtful. And in this city too, the discrepancies between what families look like, privilege, race, access to, various resources, it's hard to navigate that space.
No, it is. And it's really interesting that there's such a competition from an early age. Did you go to the right preschool? Did you get one of the 3 openings at Wood Gormley this year? As if there's no other schools in town. And, are you going to the birthday parties? There was a big thing about birthday parties when Joaquin was little. And, ours was come play basketball and have hot dogs. That was it.
I want to go to that party.
It was a lot of fun. But there was literally somebody, this was a rumor. My friend's kid got to go. There was an elephant.
Oh, what?
The parties were crazy. And children's museum parties, skating parties, those are fairly normal, bowling parties. But there was beyond. And we stopped. He looked at me one day and was like, I've never had a real birthday party. And I was like, yeah, and
yes,
you never will.
Oh.
He knew the difference. But I was just like, I don't want to be part of this.
Yeah. And I think that's powerful, right? Like you say yes to what you want and no to what you don't. And there's, like you said, in this city, it's been really interesting as an outsider, right? Like I'm not from Santa Fe, but I'm married into this, like, my sons are 17th generation New Mexicans. So that conversation happens a lot in my household, right? Of just like these kind of opulent, ornate lifestyles that, a lot of locals, I'm air quoting locals here, like that's not something that's real or a reality for a lot of folks. So
you might have a big, first communion party, or your baptism is going to have like 100 people.
Yeah.
But you probably won't have an elephant at your birthday party.
I say this, and I think my husband's going to listen to this and roll his eyes, because I do throw really big birthday parties, but I used to be an event planner, so that's my reason.
That's right. You can't help it. One of the things that I'm thinking when I look at, like your website, Raising Santa Fe, the Facebook group with all the moms and parents that talk about different issues. Do you think there's potential for parents to become more of a political force? Like, could, all the moms and dads say we want better parks, and no, it's not okay that we don't have an outdoor swimming pool until the first week of July? I mean, how do you harness all, because everyone's so indignant, but nothing changes.
Absolutely. You really struck a chord within me, because I think, like, I see those conversations all the time, right? And I believe in complaining. I believe in throwing a pity party. I'm a Cancer, I love emotions. I love to cry. I love to stomp my feet. But at the end of the day, like you said, it's a vacuum. It doesn't go anywhere. There's no mobilization. And so I think this is something I've been thinking about a lot, is like, we have tremendous power as parents, as caregivers, and it's a matter of organizing amongst ourselves to get that done. I do think there's real possibility there. And, I've chatted a lot with some really wonderful people in the city who are doing that work already. And I think we're kind of at a tipping point. At least I hope, right? Like,
that'd be nice to see.
I think so. And it's such a short time. Childhood is so short. Like, I already feel like my children are going to go off to college and, like, have their own families or, leave me, essentially. But I still think it's a really important time to invest in as a city. I think, like, if you want people to stay here, you have to make it more family friendly. If you want people to be invested in the growth, if you want locals to come back, so many of my husband's friends don't live here because they think, Santa Fe doesn't have XYZ, but I really would love to see a movement,
right,
if you will, of, taking that power back, right? And not waiting, not just saying, oh, I wish we had blah, 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 and I don't have to drive up to White Rock to the splash pad. Like, we have that power. It's just a matter of organizing ourselves.
Right. I mean, look how fast we got pickleball courts.
Oh, my gosh.
And no splash pads.
Okay, but this is the thing. It could be a both and, right?
No, it doesn't have to be one against the other.
Yeah.
But it just shows you that there's a motivation that
right.
works.
It's possible.
And it doesn't work on other issues. And how that is, I don't know. I mean, you do have city councilors now with young children, so that should help.
Yeah.
But it's just fascinating to me how we can move so quickly on one thing and other things. The skating rink we got because parents formed Think Rink and skaters. I would love to see something similar for swimming, just because I think that drowning is such an issue if you don't learn to swim.
It's a public safety issue, absolutely. And, the pools are probably my number one enemy. Like, they don't like me. I like them. But
right.
I'm pretty vocal about, like, Bicentennial. And it opened, though. So
that's right. And I heard it was great. But...
And, confusion around signups. And, again, like, Santa Fam, I try to, like, get all of the information of, like, you have to sign up ahead of time. And there's time slots. And, like, that's not the case, I think, allegedly.
Now you can just go get in line, which is how it used to be.
Yep.
So that's a nice thing. And they've cut back lap swimming, which stinks for the people who like to lap swim.
Yeah.
But that is kind of focusing on the kids. So
go to the Chavez Center. They have the better lap pool anyway. So
Oh, it's nice to swim outside, though.
That's true.
I get it. But, no, the outdoor pool, if nothing else, kids should get to go play in the pool in the summer.
One outdoor pool in this whole city. It's mind-boggling to me, but... we're going to make the best of what we have, and hopefully it'll be more in the future.
That's right. The next big city project, a pool south of Airport.
Yes,
so there we go.
It.
All right. And on that note, this has been another Conversations Different. We'll be back next week.